All right, welcome to a late Stephen King Saturday night. Didn't really have time to pre-record this, so I'm recording this actually on a Saturday night, 7:10 p.m. Central Time. I'm recording this, but we got a double header. How do I put it? We got double the awesome into this one movie, because not only do we have the man Stephen King, we also have the man John Carpenter, because we are reviewing Christine. Now, this is a first time watch, and you know me with older movies, I haven't watched a lot of them. Doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean, I don't want to. I just haven't had a chance to. So, this is on Pluto TV for free. There are ads, but if you want to watch it, go ahead. And the story of this movie is that there is this car called Christine. Arnie, there's a guy named Arnie. He buys the car, and he starts to act stranger. And then his car just has a life of its own, and it does end up killing people. And so this movie was a bit of a mixed bag for me. For the most part, I liked it, but there were a few little aspects that kind of made me I didn't really care for. So we start off in 1957, and this car is made, 1957 Chevy Plymouth, or whatever it is. It's a Plymouth, I know that. But anyway, comes out the assembly line, and it already drops on this guy's hands. And then this African American man steps in with a big cigar, and he ashes on the seat, and he ends up dead. We then jump to 1978, in like the late 1978, because we go through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's in this movie. So at least I give you a time frame of when it, goes through. But yeah. And Arnie is with his friend, Dennis, and Dennis goes to pick Arnie up, but he can't find him, and then it turns out he's being bullied by these bullies. One of them's the leader of these bullies. His name is Buddy, okay, I get you cast older actors to play teenagers. This guy looks like he's almost 40 years old. He could be like 35 years old. He's got like sideburns and shit. They showed that, he was with Buddy, whatever his last name is, and he goes in there and there's these bullies surrounding Arnie, and then this big bully. I'm like, he looks like he's like 35 years old. I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, yeah. And it, Dennis doesn't really do anything to help Arnie either. He tries to stand up for him, but then, they end up ruining Arnie's lunch bag anyway. And then they grab him by the nuts, which was really weird. I'm like, what, huh? So there's dialogue in this movie that wouldn't work nowadays. There's this new girl named Lee, and one of Dennis's friends described her as having the, quote, body of a slut. Wow. I heard that. I was looking this way. I heard him say it, and I turned around and I went, wow. That's just... wow. And yeah, Kelly Preston is in this. She doesn't do much. She's like a cheerleader. And you have the lead actress Lee, who also doesn't do much except for date Arnie. So Arnie and Dennis, they're driving home, and they come across this car, Christine, and they meet this guy, George LeBay, And he sells the car to Arnie, even though Dennis is saying, "Are you sure you want to do this? You don't want to do this. Come on, you don't want to do this." And he's like, "I want it. I gotta have it." Sells it to him for $250, and or he buys it for $250 actually. And I know that in the book, and it does kind of explain, because I found out this after I watched the movie, doing a little research and stuff. Apparently, in the book, like, it was George LeBay, it was Ronald LeBay who sold him the car. And it was Ronald LeBay that was in the car, I guess. Like, was he a ghost or something in the book? I don't know. And that explains why Arnie starts acting differently. And because there's a scene at the end of this where he's in a car with Dennis, and he says almost the exact, he says something that George said earlier in the film about, what's the best goddamn thing you ever felt. Because he was talking about, smell, like the best goddamn thing you ever smelled, except for maybe pussy. And he says it almost word for word, and I'm like, why did he say that? Well, the book it explains, but he starts having the mannerisms of George. That's one of my kind of negatives or mixed aspects, is that they don't explain why the car is evil. It just comes off the assembly line, and it's evil. Doesn't explain anything. There's no explanation to it. And it's a Stephen King story. You don't really need an explanation, I guess, but it's just, I would like a little bit more of that. So yeah, Arnie starts to act different. He gets Lee, and this is another scene that I question, alright? So Dennis is playing football, and he sees that Arnie is with Lee. Now, he tried to ask Lee out earlier. Dennis did, and she said, I have a date. So she knows that Dennis is playing football right now. She knows that Dennis asked her out, and she said she had a date. But that also means Dennis asking her out, that Dennis likes her. So, I know Arnie's not thinking straight, but what, went through her mind to say, no, we can't be making out in front of Dennis when he's playing football. Dennis likes me. I don't want to do that. But no, and that causes Dennis to have an accident, which, yeah, he ends up in the hospital, which maybe that was in the book, but I really don't get that either. Like, why did we have to incapacitate Dennis? And he's not really a big player in the story, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah. And then the bully, the 35-year-old high school bully who got suspended or expelled from high school, finds the car and totals it. But the car can, put itself back together. But then, if that's the case, why did Arnie need to find the car in pieces? That's my question. I'm like, they start beating the shit out of him. Okay, then Arnie's just going to come back. It's going to be normal. But he finds it destroyed, and then it rebuilds itself. And I get it. We get this, I guess it wasn't supposed to be in the film, but John Carpenter put it in there. It was reshoots to put it in. And for what I'll give credit. It's a very good scene of it putting itself back together, but I don't really think it's necessary. I mean, you could have just cut and it was back together. It only stands to stretch the time out a little bit, I guess, but it just, I don't know. I just don't, like I said, I don't hate the scene, but is it necessary? You know what I mean? But, yeah, so now the car goes to get revenge. He runs into this guy, the fat one, which, there's a fat guy hanging out with a bully. How does that work? Fat guys are always getting bullied. Trust me, I know. But, he gets smooshed by the car. And then we get this detective, played by, Ike from Dream a Little Dream. Harry Dean Stanton, I believe is his name. He's alright in this, he isn't getting it much. But for some reason, like, he shows up the very next day and starts hassling Arnie, and I'm sitting there going, do you really have proof? I'm guessing maybe the paint, but there's like it's all over that they trashed the car, right? And everybody goes, "Oh, how'd you fix the car?" You can fix a car. It's not, you know, it's not a hard thing to fix a car. Arnie has enough problems being hassled by the bullies, his own fucking parents, and you got a cop hassling him, who has no proof, by the way, other than the same color paint was used. That's it. We get another scene where she kills the other three, and causes a gas station to explode. She comes in again, though. What? So the car comes in by itself, and the guy who owns the place, Darnell, played by Robert Prosky, who's also an asshole to Arnie. Everyone's just gonna be an asshole to him, I guess. He shows up and he goes to investigate, and he gets smooshed in the car, and he dies. But why was it still charred from the thing? Why didn't it fix itself before it got there? For all intents and purposes, every time we see the car, it should be in perfect. Wouldn't it be something if you see it get smashed by those guys, right? And then when Arnie walks in, it just for the audience, it's back to normal. So we go, he can fix itself. And then also again, explosion. We see it damaged in an explosion, but the next time you see it in the garage, it's almost what you don't see that works better. No, I don't think we see it repair itself, but do we need to see it charred? I don't know. It's a pretty good looking effect, although I question how Robert Prosky was able to get in there without burning himself. He just sits in it and he gets smooshed, And then, of course, now they're fully blaming Arnie. And there's a scene earlier in which the car tries to kill Lee. And from that point on, she's very nervous. She's having problems with Arnie, and she doesn't want to go near the car. And yeah, make it to the end. The ending is probably the thing I have a problem with the most in this movie. It's not the setup, it's how it's executed here. So, Lee goes to Dennis, and Dennis talks to Arnie on New Year's Eve, and he's like, hey, and Arnie has a speech about how he's in love with the car, apparently. And so the next day, Dennis scratches, Darnell tonight, and said that Christine will, because they fully believe now that Christine is alive. And Christine will come there. Christina shows up. It's a trap. They smush it. Builds itself back together, of course it does. And then car goes after Lee. And this is where I have a problem. It smashes through, and Arnie goes flying through the windshield and dies. First of all, there was never any indication that Arnie was even in the car until he flew through the windshield. 2, and the most important, why kill him off? I know that every owner, according to this, has died, but do we need to kill him off? Because Arnie dies, and then they just compact it. The detective shows up, or the cop, whatever he is, and then they walk away, and you see it's going to start rebuilding itself. Which also is no, it can't do that. That's too far gone. But it's showing you, or maybe it will. But I think the more logical ending, maybe that's in the book. Maybe that's in the book, and King's writing is never perfect. Remember that. But I think the better ending would be if Arnie was to be the one to compact it and kick it away and be like, to finally come to the realization, because it's going after his friends. And then Arnie shows up and he realizes what's more important. And he is the one who just, let's change the ending a little bit, okay? So, goes after Lee, crashes through the door, through the office. Arnie's not in there, but Arnie shows up shortly afterwards and tells Christine to stop. Christine refuses, so he compacts it. He's forced to do it, and while it hurts him, he has his friends and everything will be better off, right? He might get the girl again, although she should be with Dennis, But, yeah, he'd probably go to jail, but I don't know. I think by the end, the detective knows about Christine, so I don't know how they figure out how to give him an alibi, but I just think that would be a better ending. I think maybe the ending is where King's writing kind of went down for me, and I guess it's where it's why this movie is placed firmly in the middle of the road. I'm in the middle of the road with this one because there were some good moments, like Carpenter's score, really good. Some of the acting and when people were getting killed, the gore effects and stuff, pretty good. The kills themselves were pretty good. I like the look of Christine, but for me, there's just too many things that kind of weigh it down, and I just can't. I can't say it's pretty good. So it's in the middle of the road for me. It's just an okay movie. Middle of the road, just fine. I wouldn't mind watching it again, though. So there's that. But what are your thoughts on Christine? I know there are people out there that love this movie, and that's good for you. Everyone has an opinion. So what are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.